Lightkeeper's assistant. I stood on my porch. For the first time in a long while, the porch lights were on. They illuminated the sea of mist that rolled and tumbled on itself for several meters around my house. A tiny amber speck appeared in the distance, stationary. I watched it. Curls of mist covered it, revealing it in bits. I waited. The mist parted, creating a path to the speck of light. I walked the path, cane in hand. Prior to Zoe's arrival, the mist would have attacked me relentlessly, but since she melded with it, it is much calmer, a cooling balm to a hot blister. I turned to my right to find her walking beside me. "Who is coming to visit you today, gatekeeper?" "A wraith." Zoe stopped. "Should I be worried?" "No, he has not fully turned. He will not be melding with you." Zoe nodded. "Not a fan of wraiths. They're too volatile." "Stay safe, gatekeeper." Zoe touched her hand on her heart and gave me a gentle nod. I reciprocated and then continued striding towards a speck of light. I reached the base of the mountain where the mist thinned. Higher up, two chasms, entrances to my home. One is from the dark forest. The other, a road for humans to walk when they are expected guests at Halfway House 17. I looked at the old lamp left on the ground. I picked it up. A wraith appeared, slicing its claw at me. I used the lamp as a shield. I dug the end of my cane into its chest. The beast, part apparition, part matter, screamed. Blue fire emitting from a tip of silver will do that to most supernatural creatures. "Will you behave, or do I need to spear you here and now?" Burning, I left the tip of my cane in its chest for a few more seconds, driving the point home. I withdrew. The wraith shimmered, changing form. Corporeal again. A thin man, long hair, in a lightkeeper's uniform, donning a rimmed hat, stood in front of me. I descended the gentle decline of the mountain, followed by Edward, who held his lamp up. The mist once again parted, allowing us passage to my home. Mortimer was waiting in the lounge when we arrived. "Zoe gave us safe passage," Mortimer barked. He sat in his usual spot, on the rug beside the fireplace, head on paws. I gestured to the armchair. Edward sat, placing his lamp beside his feet. I took my place, my eyes on him. I used to be a lightkeeper's assistant. His kitchen lamp was the only tool I needed. Edward looked at his lamp. It looked like a modern coffee press, only made of metal wires. It lit the area in front of me, so I could always see where I was going. I liked that. No ma or pa. I signed on to be a lightkeeper's apprentice. Nobody else wanted to do the job except me, so I started that day. Edward smiled, his eyes still on the fireplace. Most people on the coast thought I was a clod for waiting outside on a cold, wet night. They didn't really care that I lit the path for them home, keeping them safe. Never really took me seriously, except Elizabeth. She worked at the tavern. She gave me free ale anytime I went in there. She said I provided a service to the village, getting folks home safe on a dark night. I would go in there more and more because of her. She always gave me supper with my ale. Edward rubbed his left eye. Reaching in, he pulled a piece of glass out and placed it next to his lamp. Amber goo that resembled liquid fire dripped down his cheek. Edward pushed his hair behind his ear. Local lads, Gerald and his gang, took the mickey every chance they got. They were my age, but they went to school, gatekeeper. Had a good job. And I knew Elizabeth liked me, so I didn't care. Edward grimaced. He rubbed the amber goo off his cheek with his fingers. I was standing on the road with my lamp, watching folks go home, making sure they didn't step in a deep pothole. 4 of them came for me. Gerald knocked me down and took my lamp. He laughed as he slammed it against the ground. "Complete clod," he said. The others kicked me from all sides. I managed to get up somehow after one kicked me in the face. I grabbed Gerald and shoved my fingers in his face. "You broke my lamp," I screamed. Blood came out of the side of his eye. He punched me, knocking me down again. "Hold him," he told the others. They pinned me to the ground. He took a piece of glass from my lamp. "You love this lamp so much, have it." He stabbed it in my right eye. He shoved harder. Edward rubbed more amber goo from his eye. That piece of glass went too deep, I guess. Edward looked at the fireplace. I got up on the side of the road. My lamp waited for me. It wasn't broken anymore. Don't know why. Edward looked at me. I was angry, thinking about Gerald and his mates. I grabbed my lamp. Within a second, I was standing outside the tavern window looking in. Gerald and his friends were talking and laughing with Elizabeth. She was smiling at him. How could she? Edward picked the lamp, held it for a second. He put it down. Your lamp will not work here, Lightkeeper. It's a mere reflection, not real, I said. Edward looked at me. I left my lamp outside on the path. It was lit, so I knew Gerald would pick it up when he saw it. He did. I found myself standing where Gerald was, only I was holding his bulb. He was dead on the ground. The bulb was strong and it glowed. Was that his soul? I nodded. One of many names for sentience, but yes, you could call it that. Not many can trap a soul, Lightkeeper, I said. The others, Gerald's mates, the ones who held me down as he blinded me, they needed to pay. I placed my lamp on the ground. Surely enough, one by one, they picked it up, and one by one, I found myself standing with their soul in my palm. All dead. Good. Guess they can't help but be drawn to the light. Edward wiped his fingers on his trousers, staining them with the amber goo. Only Elizabeth left. How could she betray me like that? I left the lamp in the cellar. I knew she goes down there to change the barrels. Sure enough, she came downstairs. She didn't take the lamp instantly, though. She just looked at it. Edward, she called out. She looked around. Edward, please, I need to see you. Elizabeth wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. She was hurting. No! I didn't want her to pick it up, but it was too late. I stood there, her dead on the floor. It was done. I had nothing left. I was still angry, Gatekeeper. Then it changed. I could see through my dead eye. Everything was yellow, but I could see Elizabeth's face. I turned away, kicking the lamp by accident. My vision shook. Edward shook his head. I was seeing through the lamp. Found myself on the road again. Lamp lit. I watched, waiting for it to be picked up. A couple walked towards it. I was holding the man's soul, his body on the ground. The woman screamed. I saw the man through my dead eye. He was screaming, but I couldn't hear him. His pain fed me. I had to do it again, so I kicked the lamp at the woman. She couldn't see me, but the lamp moving stopped her sobbing. She went over to it. I was standing where she stood. The anguish on her face made me feel powerful. Edward shook his head. I shouldn't do it, but my lamp did things on its own. I took several more, Gatekeeper. Then more and more until the lamp finally brought me here. How did it do that? It is full and needs to be discharged. How could it be like that? It was a regular lamp before. You, rather your eye, imprinted on it. It reflects you, just as a dog's appearance changes to match that of their owner. The lamp reflected its affection for you. I tapped my temple, called a clod, treated like a village idiot. You wanted to be more powerful. The lamp gave you that. Edward looked at the fireplace. He turned to me and nodded. Didn't have much. Got a job, made me feel good, so I thought helping others would make me feel much better. It did, when they thanked me. Elizabeth made me feel the best. I wanted to be more, for her. Edward shook his head. All gone now. Doesn't have to be. Come with me, bring your lamp. I strode out, turning left, as Edward stood up, gathering himself. He followed. Mortimer fell in behind him. I descended 2 flights of stairs to the sub-basement where I turned right and walked to the last door on the left. Edward, lamp in hand, came and stood beside me. Mortimer stopped a few feet behind him. I opened the door to reveal a long wooden walkway that was a bridge across an ever-changing tide of grey fog. It looked like the black mist outside my home, only it was grey, and it changed into a stormy sea, then an Arctic blizzard, followed by a desert, and then back to a twisting and coiling grey fog. The bridge led to a port that had one huge light that illuminated part of it. Apparitions, some dense air, others waif-like, all walked along the bridge towards a port in the distance. "Do not fall in," I said to Edward. He looked at the ever-changing nature of the grey fog. "What is this place?" Checkpoint 13. One of many checkpoints that humans pass through after they die. This one has the longest crossing. A huge wave smashed over the bridge. Crash, it sucked away several apparitions that screamed as they fell into the fog. "Use your lamp. Guide these souls safely across to the port," I said. Edward, eyes on the bridge, smiled. "How long will I have to do this?" "Until your debt is balanced. Then you decide." He nodded. Lamp in hand, he strode across the threshold. It illuminated the second he got across. The lamp discharged the souls, it claimed. They took form on the bridge. Edward walked towards them. This way. They followed him. I closed the door and returned to the lounge. Edward was a good soul who lost his way for a while. He's back on his path again and doing what comes naturally to him, helping others. What comes naturally to you? Find out and follow it. You will be much more content, and you'll let life occur as it should. Listen, and you will know. It is a good way to progress in your evolution. See you next Sunday at 11. Stay safe. Don't die in your sleep. Godspeed.